Welcome back, guys. It has been a hot minute. We haven't done this in a long time, and so much has happened. But we're not going to tell you about it. Or maybe we will. Let's just talk about nonsense and see where this goes. Welcome back. We're happy to be back. Let's get this started.
Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, I know, right? We're suddenly together in the same room, not wearing masks. Oh. Did we just commit faux pas number one? Well, what's the...
I am vaccinated.
Okay.
And so are you.
I am. I
Yes.
identify as he, him.
Yes, I identify as a centaur.
Wait, today, right? For
Today,
till like
today.
5, right?
I feel like this is the beginning of how we get canceled.
Yeah.
You know, Dave Chappelle taught me about that. So
Did you see that special, by the way?
I did.
Dude, I thought it was funny. Maybe that means some of you click off right now, but I thought it was funny.
I didn't think it was that funny,
Mm.
but I thought it was insightful.
Mm.
And I thought that the Dave Chappelle I saw was very different than the Dave Chappelle that I see portrayed via the news.
Yes.
And while there is a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of like, you don't like what I say, I don't care. But there was also a tone of like, are you actually listening to me? Because what I'm trying to say isn't what you're hearing. And that's actually a really interesting place to start, because I think the world is kind of really in this stage where we live in a generation. You just commented on all these like really interesting things that all have to do with like how I perceive what your opinion is, and it doesn't matter whether or not I intended harm or I was being hurtful. But like we live in a generation where sports teams that have fairly mundane names are being renamed. I don't know if you heard. It's not the Cleveland Indians anymore.
No.
Like the baseball team, it's
Please tell me. Oh
Cleveland Guardians.
Guardians.
And it's not the Washington.
That's exactly what they do.
Yes, and like the newspaper, and it's not the Washington Redskins anymore. I do see why the Redskins could be offensive,
Okay.
whereas Indians, I don't really get it. You know, it's like the Minnesota Vikings. That's kind of a cool name. You know,
Yeah.
like when I think of Indian culture, I think that's a pretty freaking cool culture. You know, like being able to subsist on the land, be in tune with nature. I don't think Indian, I'm like, that's racist. I think Indian, I'm like, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
technically they're Native Americans. But Indians are also really cool. Really good food, really good culture. But yeah, what were we talking about? We were talking about...
Well, I was going to say, I'm planning on starting my own sports team. Haven't decided which sport yet, but it's going to be based in Solvang. I was actually wondering if you'd be the general manager. I was going to call them the Solvang Nazis.
Ooh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
You really want to get canceled. It's like, well, we're being insulting to the right people. except, you know, somehow in an attempt to attack the Nazis, you've managed to upset all the Jews. I actually really love.
It's going to be a competitive shuffleboard.
Yes.
Solvang Nazis.
Yes.
Because, you know, the people play shuffleboard. Okay. All right.
Let me take a quick aside to address the audience. My godparents are Jewish. I strongly identify as a strong supporter of the Jewish people and Jewish culture. This isn't a commentary on my opinions on Israel and Palestine. I can comment on that if you want, but I'm not going to. Too bad. Yeah. All right, owner of the Nazis.
Well, I mean, we're living in a world where 007 is a black woman.
Yes. I don't necessarily have a problem with that idea. You know, like, as long as... Look, I think it's weird when we take specific characters that are not male, female, white, black, and then re-envisioning them as male, female. It's like the same thing with like the 21 story, the Blackjack story. For viewers at home who don't know, there was a group of, I think, MIT students who learned how to card count and made all this money, and they whitewashed the entire thing. There were a bunch of Asians who were spearheading this thing, and they didn't think that the story would sell with Asians, so they wanted to make them white. And I really object when Hollywood does that. We talked about this on the first episode of our podcast.
Right.
And in the same way, like, I don't need you to recast 007 as an Asian man. Why not just create a new character? Like, I don't think it's progress to like reinvent a character in a different light. I think it's progress to give glory to a new character that's just as cool and cool for his own reasons, and give them their own monikers. But the 007 thing doesn't really bother me. Did it bother you?
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I think that was just, it was fashionable to create controversy prior to the release of the film. So, I mean, the interesting thing with this film is it went through quite a journey just to make it to the big screen. It was supposed to be released a year and a half before all of this. And then, given its nature, honestly, the 007 being a black female, that's, like, really, really peripheral to the story. Like, it has nothing to do with anything. It's just like, oh, they replaced you while you were gone. That's 007 now.
But it's like, it was all over the news
Exactly.
for the long... Everyone was so upset.
So
James Bond is a white man. Anyway, sorry.
Ridiculous. No, I mean, that's exactly it. Like, and the funny thing is that has... If you see the movie, which surprisingly nobody has, if you see the movie, that's like the least interesting thing to talk about. Like, considering the end and what it means for the franchise and who they're going to cast next has more bearing on that same discussion than 007 as a black female. Like, if they cast Idris Elba as the next James Bond, that'll be more relevant to today's social climate than all of that. I honestly think, well, what did you think about the movie?
I got stuck at like 15 minutes when I read the Wikipedia.
The glory of not going to the theater to watch a movie.
I don't know, man. Like, I think that it's got to be a special movie to really keep my attention nowadays. And I think it's also like tone, and not just tone, but like the tenor of the movie. Like, what is... We live in a generation that's pretty bleak and depressing and dark, and it's like we watched The Revenant. We watched The Revenant, oh gosh, when it came out in theaters, whenever that was, 2015, 16. And I remember thinking to myself the entire movie, this is a wonderful movie. I hate this experience. I want this movie to end. It just made me so uncomfortable. And I give respect to Leonardo DiCaprio, I give respect to the creators of the movie, but I never want to watch that movie again. It was like such a painful experience. And I walked out of it feeling like tired and drained. And I feel like that was one thing for 2016.
Yeah.
But this is 2021. I'm still like reeling from how reality has, really done a number on us all. And I don't need reasons to feel bummed out. And I feel like James Bond wasn't necessarily a bummer of a movie, but where I feel like...
Kind of was. Spoiler alert.
but like, the thing is the tonality of it. It's not a Pierce Brosnan, like, cool, suave, everything's great. It was this new generation of James Bond, where it's a little bleak, a little depressing, a little dark, and my appetite for that is just, it's really waned.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm going to come from the opposite end because I have quite a bit of emotional investment in Daniel Craig as James Bond. Like, I will go on the record and say Casino Royale is my favorite James Bond movie. I do think it's the best James Bond movie. And when Daniel Craig first took on the mantle of James Bond, there was a lot of naysayers, which is kind of normal nowadays. But it's kind of reasonable considering he looks very different than a lot of the actors who played James Bond in the decades prior. Honestly, I'm also going to go on record and say I think Daniel Craig is a beautiful man.
So, okay, I can't, I hate saying that he's ugly, and I've joked around with you about this a lot.
Yeah.
But in contrast to Pierce Brosnan, in contrast to Sean Connery, in contrast to Roger Moore, those, like, no homo.
Yeah.
But those were damn good-looking men. And Daniel Craig's like, like, where those guys were, like, at minimum 8s, is like a 6. It's like he's above average, but he doesn't strike me as like that caliber. But I also know you have feelings because you were a fan of the books.
Yeah, I do think that Daniel Craig's James Bond is actually pretty close to the vision that Ian Fleming originally had for the man. Like, so he has the cold, piercing gaze that Daniel Craig has as James Bond. That was the first thing I noticed in Casino Royale. It's interesting that when Sean Connery became the first mainline James Bond, he was so influential to the role that Ian Fleming eventually started to conform the literary version of the character to Sean Connery. But I actually do think Daniel Craig is very similar
To the original.
to the original. But I mean, that's not why. I really think Casino Royale took the Bond movie to another level. You know, like it has much more emotional depth than a lot of its predecessors. It had a very interesting story, but I think the thing that takes the cake for me is the on-screen chemistry between Daniel Craig and Eva Green. Like
Is that the main?
Vesper Lind.
Oh.
And the ghost of her character
yes,
follows
yeah.
this character throughout his run as James Bond. That's what's different about this James Bond's run, is that it's one continuous story. From Casino Royale to the end of No Time to Die, it's one character arc. And it's never been seen to that extent in other James Bond movies. So when Sean Connery was James Bond, they did want you to think that this is the same James Bond from movie to movie. Even when Sean Connery handed it off to George Lazenby, the idea was like, this is still the same character. So for those of you, many people haven't seen this movie because people kind of hate George Lazenby as James Bond, but his lone outing in the James Bond universe was on Her Majesty's Secret Service. And spoiler alert, but you've had 50 damn years to watch this movie, so James
If you don't
Bond,
want to watch the spoiler alert, skip ahead 30 seconds.
yeah,
You've
double
got 30
tap on
seconds.
your screen. Yeah, I know, right? So he gets married at the end.
Oh.
So Tracy Bond becomes Mrs. Bond, right? Like so.
That's how you get James Bond Jr. the
Exactly.
cartoon.
Yeah. Exactly. But they're driving. They just got married, and James Bond tells his new bride, "We have all the time in the world." Right when Blofeld drives by with his right-hand woman, and she shoots her to death. And James Bond barely survives, but she's riddled with bullets, and then James Bond's wife dies.
Wow.
And then they make continual references to his marriage in the later James Bond movies.
Interesting.
But other than that, every Bond movie is kind of a standalone movie, and they kind of they have a strong characterization, the fact that he smokes a lot, drinks a lot, womanizes a lot, and gambles a lot. But other than that, it's like each movie is its own outing. Whereas in Daniel Craig's movies, the decisions that he's made along the way, some for better, some for worse, follow him to the very end.
Yeah.
And like there's repercussion. And most notably, Eva Green, the ghost of Eva Green's character kind of follows him throughout his entire life. Which is why I like this movie, which is why I liked the tonality of the last movie. There was like a sense of completion to his arc. But honestly, like the James Bond movies, the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, not all of them have been good. Like he kind of has this pattern of alternating good. Casino Royale was good, Quantum of Solace was not good, Skyfall was good, Spectre, a lot of people hated it. And now with this fifth, No Time to Die, I'm going to say it was, on cue, it was one of the better James Bond movies from Daniel Craig. A lot of things, the movies look better as they're going. Like the direction of photography improves
Oh, I see.
as it goes on. Well, Casino Royale to Quantum of Solace was kind of a step down, but then from then it was like a steady incline. But I think overall, even though it's not my favorite and it's not the best, but it is a fitting conclusion to Daniel Craig's James Bond. Sorry, I talked a lot about James Bond.
Who do you cast as the new James Bond?
Ooh. Okay.
It's interesting when you first said cold gaze. The first guy that jumped in my head was Benedict Cumberbatch, but he's too tall. He doesn't have the physique.
Yeah. He's not quite macho enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. Another guy that I heard put forward as an option, but I have a hard time detaching him from his role in the MCU is Tom Hiddleston. When he does do up the the suave dash, yeah, he looks good.
Yeah.
But I can't see it because it just autopilots to Loki, and he's so good at Loki that I'm not saying that he can't be it, but who do you have? Who do you have?
I feel like no matter what we change about James Bond, we're living in a very progressive era where we're like redefining characters left and right. But I feel like James Bond will always need a degree of ruggedness, because like if you live your life on the run, like you never set roots, you're always globetrotting, always living your life on the edge, it's gonna wear on you. Yeah. So if they get someone really fresh faced, like I feel Tom Hiddleston is,
too fresh faced.
Yeah,
too boyish.
I'm not gonna buy it. I have to suspend too much disbelief to believe that this guy's licensed to kill.
So you could have an Ildris. He's got the rugged look.
He's definitely got the rugged look. I think, okay, so what I liked about James Bond is, like I said earlier, they did try to maintain a degree of continuity to him. He's supposed to be like from Scotland, and he's supposed to be an orphan. His parents died in a climbing accident. Like, these things have always stayed constant to the character.
Scotland, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So if you wanted a really ugly one, you can go with Gordon Ramsay.
So, like, I mean, I think if we're getting to the point where we have to completely rewrite a character's origin for the sake of progress, I think we're stepping too far.
Yeah.
Like Batman doesn't need to be white, you know. Maybe not, but
Did you say Batman doesn't need to be white?
oh, okay. Batman is another character where like it's a mantle that gets passed on, right? But if suddenly he's not Bruce Wayne, suddenly he's not a billionaire, suddenly he didn't even lose his parents.
So so you're not saying if Bruce Wayne doesn't need to be, it's Batman.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, got it. 'Cause that's a key distinction.
Right. But like his skin color to me isn't super important. But if you do change the fact that his parents were killed in an alley and he was forced to watch, if you change the fact that he had to push his mind and body to the limit in order to go on this vendetta that he's waged against crime, like if suddenly we're changing details like that to accommodate the fact that we want him to be a girl now, or we want him to be Asian now, or we want him to be black now, then I think we're going too far.
Yeah, and it's like we live in a world where there's so many narrative tools that I don't think it's necessary. Like, again, I respect the desire to promote diversity and inclusivity. I super respect that desire. But like, I feel like we're approaching it in the most like ham-fisted, narratively, like childish, elementary way.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Like, it's not like the next step beyond. Oh, he was actually Asian. Is an alternate universe where he is Asian.
Yeah,
you know, just like you do a little bit of work to set up the precedent that it's an alternate universe.
Yeah. And
that's, of course, not a compelling way to do it. But, you know, the fact that we're often forcing it without... I like the Joe Rogan analogy about inclusivity. He was talking about a play he saw with his family. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't. Tell me.
So he was talking about how he watched this play, and he's like, he's talking about, I'm all for, you know, inclusivity, you know, black, white, whatever.
By the way, we're already canceled because you mentioned Joe Rogan.
Yes, true. Yeah, they're gonna demonetize us. But don't worry, we've got $1 billion deal with Spotify waiting for us, only for us to get canceled there too. But yeah. So he's talking about going on, you know, watching this play with my family, and I just couldn't get into it because, you know, you got these kids, and you know, they start out like Asian and white, and then they grow up and they're like black and Mexican, and their children are blonde-haired, blue-eyed white kids. How does it happen? And I was like, I'm mixing up all the races.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, like if I have to suspend disbelief because you're bad at narrative complexity or narrative storytelling, that's when you fail at inclusivity.
Yeah.
If you tell the story in a way that makes sense, by all means, change, you know, the Hulk into a young Korean man, which they did. Yeah. But they've justified it. You know, I'm not for lazy storytelling.
Right.
That's the thing that irritates me. And I feel like that's a generation.
Yeah.
You know,
and if it's lazy storytelling for the sake of bending over backwards to accommodate certain sensibilities, then I have a problem.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's actually when we're like, I really hate I even hate using the word woke, because we live in this generation where everyone's trying to be super like aware, and I guess the word means like awake, but like it's so countercultural and so not countercultural, counterintuitive, counter logic, counter reason that we don't live in a generation that makes sense anymore.
Right.
You know, in an effort to be politically correct, we're willing to just sacrifice things like storytelling, like good storytelling, like making sense, like actually being justified in your anger. But without getting too much into that, an idea just popped in my head, or a thought just popped in my head. Yeah. We alluded to a lot of the things, and I don't want to get into it because I feel like we should talk about it in episode 2, but we alluded to a lot of things that broke this year for Marshall Club.
Oh yeah. I was just thinking about something like that too, but
I'm just like blown away, you know, like here we are, basically a year from the time where we were filming all these videos, and it's broken, you know, like Andy was in the MCU.
I know.
It actually happened, and you know, like Paper Tigers came out in this time.
Yeah.
Everything Everywhere All at Once is gonna hit the theater soon.
Yeah.
TM. Is it soon?
I hope it's soon. We actually don't know, but yeah.
Do they do you know what's the story there?
They're in post-production. It sounds like I'm gonna bet that they have a final cut of the movie. It sounds like they're waiting for a time when they can release it in theaters that's opportune for everybody. I know it has something to do with timing, and it has something to do with whatever's happening, but it sounds like everything's in place.
Yeah.
That's as much as I know, but yeah, it's been a big year. A lot of changes for you and me, and for Andy and for Brian. We've been all over the place. I got to be in a movie, and I found out.
Oh yes, you were.
Yeah, I found out. So the brief run through of it is I went there, and because of some like last minute happenings, I had to leave set early.
Wait, you gotta tell them context. What movie?
All right. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that there's no NDAs involved in all of that. Our friend D.Y.
This
Sal.
is the most marketing they're gonna get.
I know.
You're welcome, guys. Sorry, I'm.
Yeah, no. So our friend D.Y. Sal is.
This is how they're gonna get the 4 people that are gonna watch the movie. Sorry.
Exactly. Our friend D.Y. Sal is a leading man now, and he's produced, he's starred in and produced a number of action films, each one gaining in budget and complexity. And this latest one was filmed in Kentucky, and a lot of members of Marshall Club stunt family went out there to help him with it, and that includes yours truly. Originally, I wasn't going to be involved in the project, but they had an actor back out last minute, and they needed to fill this role. So D.Y. asked me personally, and I was able to make it happen. And for me, it was a big step up because this is a feature film. And
was it SAG?
It wasn't, unfortunately.
Just curious.
Yeah. But still, I got screen time, I got lines, I got fight choreography, I got facial prosthetics.
Facial prosthetics.
Yeah. This face.
I saw what they did. I didn't see the prosthetics. Or I couldn't tell they were prosthetics.
Some people thought it was an improvement. Thank you very much. But I had a character who had a scar running down his face and herpes on his lips.
Nice.
And, they improved my complexion.
Nice.
And what was crazy was it was 2 hours of makeup every single time.
Oh.
Every single day that I was meant to film.
How did it react to sweat?
Pretty good actually. Yeah, because you guys know I sweat a lot. But we were also filming in Kentucky in a cold, dank sanitarium. Yeah, so like I've heard of people talk about like, oh, this costume took hours to put on, and I'm like, no. And then just for facial prosthetics, a scar on my eye and herpes on my lips, that took 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was just sitting there. Makeup artists with their cigarette-scented hands just...
Oh no, oh gosh.
Yeah, there was the real acting experience, I feel. But because I had to leave Kentucky on a family emergency, and also there was a COVID scare on set, and that caused a 4-day shutdown, all of these things caused them to be up to the wall with scheduling issues. And basically it came down to one night when we had to get it all out of the way, and we didn't make it. Like, so many challenges, like filming needed to happen in this order, people weren't in good moods. And then basically it got to the director. I heard the director say, like, I'm just going to axe your character. And he said it, like, so callously. But, it was his screenplay, he's the director, and we're out of time. Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, at least I had the experience of working on set.
Who was the director? Not D.Y.
Perry.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So he decided to axe my character, and it's like, damn, I've been here for 2 weeks now. And like I put in a lot of work, and now my character's not even going to make the cut. But at least I had the experience of acting in a feature film and doing choreography, like knowing the pressure of having to deliver. Like Marshall Club is one thing, and obviously this movie is not going to compare to any of our short films in terms of choreography, complex choreography. But like this really counts. This is actually going to be a movie that's expected, to make a return for its investors. Mm-hmm. So, like, having to perform on that level was really,
and it's
really
not
worth it.
You're not performing for you, you're performing for other people.
Exactly.
They're paying you to do this.
Exactly. But this week, turns out I got to skim through a rough cut of the movie, and it turns out I'm still in the movie. Yes.
I didn't know that. I just found that out.
Yeah. I didn't tell him that before this. So, you know, your boy gets some credit, gets some screen time, and it's all good.
Awesome. You also did this project for AimLab.
Yes.
Super awesome.
Yes,
Shout out
yes.
to AimLab, Camille Dunn,
Yeah.
with the white last name.
And you were in this film.
Yeah, well, it's not a film. It's a promo for a
short
video
film.
game.
Yes, yes.
I just remember, like, it was so much fun. Like, I genuinely did not expect to have as much fun as I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just kind of, like, reignited the fire to do this, to do stuff,
Yeah.
to try to act, to try to refine the craft. Because, you know, like, being an Asian American who's now, you know, significantly past 30, but not yet 40. Mysterious. How old am I? Yeah, but like I, you know, there's a part of me that's like, come on, grow up, man. You gotta just, you know, you don't have leads, you don't have anything going on. Just grow up, do the normal thing. But just being on set and having that experience again kind of lit the fire.
Yeah.
So I think between now and 2023, I got to figure out, like, you know, it's poop or get off the pot. You know?
Exactly.
If I'm gonna make it happen, make it happen. If I don't, I don't. But yeah. So like, the opportunity to be in an actual thing and also get paid to do an actual thing was freaking fun. Thank you for that opportunity. If you guys haven't already seen via Daniel's social, tell them.
Yeah, it is up on my social media, on my Instagram specifically, but I do think the footage is available somewhere on YouTube. That one, I'm not sure.
They weren't planning on releasing it. Like, I've got some, like, secret cuts that I've sent out.
Nice.
But yeah, like, you've got most of it on Instagram.
Yeah, especially the fight sequence, and we do have access to the video. So if you guys ask nicely, maybe we'll put it up in here or something. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was really cool. Like, it's been a big year.
Right here.
I know. It's been a big year for all of us.
Yeah.
Rumor has it that you're going to Alaska.
I am. I was, thanks to you again, I booked a play, and it's kind of interesting. I've never had strong interest in plays. Like, I mean, I had peripheral interest in just acting in general, and I was, like, open to the idea of doing play format.
Yeah.
But the idea of doing the same damn scene, like, 50 times, you know, like, well, first of all, you have to do it, like, a bazillion times to get it down.
Right.
And then you just got to do it again and again and again and again every single night.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, that was a little daunting to me. But, yeah, you submitted to me this casting call for, I remember it was, like, an ambitious, passionate Thai guy who's, like, you know, like, late 20s. And I'm like, I could be late 20s. And I was like, that's pretty much me outside of the age thing. And, you know, yellow stay mellow, black don't crack.
Exactly.
I can pull it off.
Totally.
But, yeah, like, that was just one of those really, like, perfectly, divinely appointed Beshert opportunities. Beshert is the Yiddish word for fate.
Oh.
Yeah, I like that word a lot. So today you learned something, YouTube. But yeah. So, like, I remember, you know, I just submitted the resume and they asked for a casting a casting video, and I forgot to send the casting video.
Oh.
It was already overdue.
Oh.
And then like the day of, like, it was due at midnight, and it was like 11 o'clock, and I checked my email and I'm like, what is this email? Oh no, I forgot. And I was like, do I really want to do this? It's a lot of work. And then I emailed the coordinator, like, can I do it late? And they're like, yeah, you know, you can do it late. And then I half-heartedly put together. I mean, like, I tried hard when I was in the scene, but like I half-heartedly did the scene. I submitted it, and I was very, very much like, I'm just doing it to get the reps in. I'm just doing it to just you know, just for fun.
Right.
And then they called me in for a second for a live audition. And I remember, like, when I was doing the live audition, I was like, man, like, this is fun. And I think I'm better than these guys. And, like, I just remember, like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this, but I'm glad I did this.
Yeah.
And then after the interview, I was like, I wonder if I'm gonna get it. I wonder if they're gonna offer it to me. Am I even gonna take it if they offer it to me? Probably not. And then, because it's in Alaska, I don't want to be in Alaska. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Alaska in the winter? That's terrible. But then they offered me the gig, and then the idea of actually getting out of Los Angeles, being in, like, Juneau has 32,000 people. It doesn't have road access to the rest of the world. You have to fly there or take a ferry there.
Yeah.
The idea of being in this place that's like kind of adventurous and frontiery and like different, like that suddenly was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I read the play, and I genuinely had my mind blown. Like, I did not expect the play to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
It's by a Thai playwright. His name is Prince. I forget his last name, but it's 75 letters, like my last name. It's the alphabet like 32 times. And it was just really good. Like, I remember when I read the play, and I was trying to like kind of like feel the scenes and like think about the character. I remember like I genuinely was moved. Like, I started tearing up when the character was really sad, and it's like it's a family drama, but also a horror, like 100% a horror. If you're familiar with Thai movies, they managed to do this really well. They managed to really pull at your heartstrings and make you feel things.
Yeah.
But it's freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
And I was floored. Like, I remember I was like reading it before bed, and I was like, man, I'm like,
Yeah.
it was genuinely like freaky and creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I took the offer, and that's all she wrote. Thanks, Daniel.
Your boy's going to Alaska.
Yeah. We got to figure out we got to coerce Andy and Brian to come.
I know.
I feel like they will enjoy. They will at least enjoy the horror elements.
Yeah.
Because. Yeah. Oh no, I can't invite them. They're gonna make too much noise.
Like, hey, you two, keep them down.
Yeah.
The redhead and the bald one. That's so cool. Like, honestly, I'm really excited for you because I hear about Daniel Craig started in theater. I hear about Ewan McGregor started in theater. I hear about Gary Oldman. I hear the list goes on and on.
I guess I'm the next Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. Like, honestly, it could happen, dude. And leading role. Your first play ever, and you booked the leading role.
Yeah, it was honestly a little humbling and validating.
Yeah.
You know, because you get this in your head. You know, you get this like, I feel like I'm pretty good at this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could make this work.
Mm-hmm.
But then you listen to reality, you listen to statistics, you listen to societal expectations, you listen to like the fact that most actors don't make it, and you try to like talk yourself out of it because like you don't want to waste your time,
right.
You know. But yeah, man, like it's really really cool, and you know, to see you really getting to hit your stride. You know, you opening up the doors for me to get, you know, really big gigs, and like Marshall Club in general opening doors for Marshall Club family.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's such a cool year, you know.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that like we've been going through some stuff, you know, all of us, as a society and as individuals, it's been a really cool couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a really random thought. Okay, so you have this is backtracking to Marvel stuff, but maybe this might tie in.
Doesn't need to tie in. There's only 2 people listening to us, and they're not checking for continuity.
Exactly. So, Thor 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thor 2. Do you remember what it was called? It was like something like
Dark World.
Yes.
Yeah. Was it right? Okay.
So Thor and the Dark World, right? And you look at the movie, and the Dark World part of it gets resolved within that movie, and then Thor goes on to Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
And in Thor Ragnarok ties up. Thor goes on to, you know, Avengers and stuff like that, right? Captain America, you know, like Captain America and the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier element of it does live on, but for the most part, that's introduced in the movie. Captain America returns in Captain America and Civil War. Civil War resolves at the end of the movie. Captain America moves on, right? Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. If you wait to the end of the credits, And this is not spoilers because it's on Disney Plus now, and just stream it if you haven't seen it. You know,
If you haven't seen
just
it,
kidding.
pause
No,
it right
pay,
now.
pay to watch it.
Pause it now.
For Andy's sake, pay to watch. No,
Skip ahead. No, he doesn't get.
no,
royalties.
he doesn't.
He doesn't
Never
get
mind, just stream
royalties.
it.
Just stream it. Skip ahead 2 minutes.
Anyways,
2.5
like,
minutes.
at the end of the credits of any Captain America movie, it says Captain America will return. At the end of any Thor movie, at the end of the credits, it says Thor will return. If you wait to the end of the credits for Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, it doesn't say Shang Chi will return. It says the Ten Rings will return. So, like, now we're in this
wait,
thing
is
where...
Is that always? For every movie?
Pretty much, yeah. Like
Like
Iron
pretty
Man
much,
will
pretty much,
return.
or always.
I'm pretty sure every single movie says, like, this hero will return. So typically the naming scheme of the movie is the title, like, which is typically the name of the character, and the subtitle, like whatever it is they're dealing with. And usually the subtitle has to do with a sequel or a trequel or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
The
Trequel.
Shang-Chi
Trilogy?
trilogy,
Yeah.
whatever.
Trequel.
Triquel. Well, whatever.
It's
Dayquil,
the medicine
Nyquil.
to help trees sleep.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But Shang-Chi needed a subtitle in the very first title, and it doesn't say Shang-Chi will return. It says the Ten Rings will return. And I harken back to the scene, the first post-credit scene, where they're talking to holograms of... sorry, this is super spoiler territory, but it's... Whatever, just
Skip
watch
ahead,
it. Pause
skip ahead
this,
if you don't
turn
want
on
it,
Disney
yeah.
Plus, do what you gotta do. They're talking to Hulk, right? They're talking to
Yeah.
Bruce Banner, who's mysteriously back in Mark Ruffalo form and not Hulk.
Sure.
He's not Smart Hulk anymore. They're talking to Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, right? And they're holograms. And, like, you can tell the writers are like, we don't know where we're going with this, but we're just going to put this in place so that it can tie in later when we do have it figured out.
Interesting.
It's like the Ten Rings. Oh, they're made of this alloy that's not even from this world. And they're much older than you say they are. And then, you know, they're trying to tie it in. Obviously, they don't know where they're going with this. But they know the Ten Rings will return. They don't know Shang-Chi will return.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should talk about our opinions about the movie.
Well, okay. Before we do that, I'll preface by saying Simu Liu made a lot of waves by tweeting, "We are not an experiment." But and obviously that wasn't the context of the original statement.
Sure.
But when
Can you
the
give a little bit
subtitle
of, background for the viewers.
Yeah. So Simu Liu says a lot of things on Twitter, and one of them was, "We are not an experiment," which was in reference to, was it Bob Iger's statements or somebody?
An executive with Disney.
A Disney executive. I want to say it was Bob Iger, but he said this in reference to Shang-Chi, this experiment, you know, blah 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 blah. And he thought that to mean the experiment of putting Asians at the helm of a major production like this Marvel movie. But actually what he meant was this was in the wake of Scarlett Johansson suing Disney because she said it wasn't part of the deal that Black Widow would be released on Disney Plus. And she claims that cut into her revenues because she was an executive producer of her own film. So it seems like she lost a lot in the box office because of it. And they decided that Shang-Chi would only be released in theaters as a result, or in connection to this event. And so when he said experiment, it's like this is an unprecedented era where movies are being released streaming and in the theaters at the same time. So like it is experimental. They are trying to find out a new model in this changing world, but Simu Liu took that to heart. He's got a, you know, like, I guess a lot of Asians in Hollywood have chips on their shoulders, and for good reason, but he made this statement and it made a lot of waves. But going back to that, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and the Ten Rings will return, not necessarily Shang-Chi will return. Who's to say that that's not an experiment?
Yeah. It's also particularly interesting because it ties in really well with our first topic of people, like, having the wrong... being offended at things that aren't meant. And it's like, it's frustrating because people will still try to justify the right to be upset at it. I wasn't saying that at all, yet because I said it in this way and you misunderstood, that's my fault. Just an interesting tie-in for, for continuity's sake. You mentioned it.
Yeah.
But, it's particularly interesting because I remember, I have mixed feelings about the movie. Obviously, Andy being a part of it, I was obviously going to be rooting for its success in many, many ways.
Yeah.
But I feel like the thing that I was sold on, the thing that Hollywood and Disney told me to expect, which was this is gonna be like a throwback to 80s Jackie Kung Fu. I was like, whoa, like seriously? That's awesome. You know, like and they brought in the like the team. They brought in second unit director Brad Allen, rest in peace.
Yes.
And they brought in several seasoned hands.
Yeah.
Yet somehow they didn't get it right. That doesn't mean it was a bad movie. It was strange to me. You know, strange to me that it was getting so much press. And I guess that, again, we live in this generation where it doesn't really matter if you have substance. As long as you can tell the people and the people don't know any better, that's all that matters.
Right.
But it was interesting to see how little substance there was to the action. It was just another Marvel movie, you know?
Right.
There were a couple scenes that were obviously pretty epic,
Yeah.
but it felt nipped. It felt like preemptively neutered, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I have to say, I thought it was a little off that the most compelling drama was by the primary villain.
Yeah.
And the most interesting person in the entire arc that really captivated me was killed off. Especially when it obviously makes sense to bring him back.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get into it, but like, if the soul-eating dragon eats your soul, and then the soul-eating dragon gets killed, did he already digest and poop out your soul? Did it happen that fast? You know, like, I know, like, you know, you could just say, like, the soul eating is a one-way thing, but, like, for me, like, it just makes sense. Like, he was such a compelling villain. They're done with him. They're done with Wenwu.
Yeah.
They're done with this really wonderful character that they've masterfully casted and written for.
Yeah.
And he was the highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
No offense to anyone else, no offense to Andy.
Yeah.
But he was the best part of the movie. You know, it's like getting rid of Loki, you know?
Right.
Like, come on, man. Like, are you really gonna get rid of it's like getting rid of Joker.
Yeah.
You know? It's getting rid of the real Cell. And it's like even the threat or the allure or promise that he could come back one day. You know, a lot of times like Joker will be in Batman 1 and then he'll show up in Batman 4. You know, like not that that's actually happened, but the fact that they've removed him entirely, or have they?
You know, who's going to listen to this? I feel like...
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, regardless of what they did, Marvel lives in a universe where deaths don't matter. They've done it with almost all of their characters. You know, there are a couple things, like they say the only person that stays dead is Uncle Ben, right? But even I think there are universes where Uncle Ben, you know, lived. But that's kind of the thing. Like, I feel like if it can tell a better story, and if, most importantly, the fans want it, they could bring anyone back. They could bring back Wenwu, they could bring back Andy, they could bring back whoever the heck they want.
Yeah.
At the crux of it, I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential, but I didn't feel like they did the best job with, I'm just going to say it, with the title character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that he just was a little, maybe it was because of the scenes they cut, but it just, there was so much like, I don't get it. I don't see how you go from assassin to this dude back to assassin. Like that, it was very, very sloppy.
Yeah.
And maybe he didn't step up to the plate from an acting perspective. Maybe he did step up to the plate from an acting perspective, and he just didn't have good storytelling behind him. There's just something flat there, you know. There's something really flat because he starts out this like trained killer, you know. Actually starts out this innocent boy who then becomes, you know, like I need to be a trained killer.
Yeah.
I hope you skipped ahead enough if you didn't want spoilers. We're definitely jumping into spoilers now. But it just seemed choppy.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't seem like I can't imagine the story that connects all of that well.
Yeah.
You know, I can't imagine him running away and being well adjusted and able to adapt to normal high school life and becoming friends with Katie. I imagine him being a sociopath and like, you know, being a murderer and a drug dealer and a, you know, like that's who you have. Like, how does he suddenly become this super suave, cool, charming dude, Mister? I am, you know, kind of funny and go party and karaoke. You're like, it doesn't fit. And then for it to all fall apart in a moment when he's fighting Death Dealer, and to like, oh, my answer is to kill my dad. That's a pretty big jump, you know. Like it just, I had a hard time tracking Simu's arc, where I felt like Wenwu's changes were completely intelligible.
Right.
Katie's changes, intelligible. And for those reasons, I was a little bit disappointed in the movie. You know, I obviously disappointed because our boy didn't have more footage.
Yeah.
But if you are interested in seeing more footage, check out Martial Club, because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that he did for other actors.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I guess now that you mention it, his arc is a little hard to track. Like it requires a big suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Like, one typical trope in martial arts movies is the development of the person, because a big part of martial arts is growing into the warrior as opposed to being the warrior already. And the way it's oriented in this story is we are to believe that Shang-Chi is this trained assassin from the beginning. So even when you see him as like dorky guy who works the ballet and like is maladjusted in this society, like he's still like this top assassin. And like, I don't know. I don't know what they should have done differently.
It falls flat.
Yeah.
It falls flat.
Yeah.
Like, either you need to do more storytelling about how he was able to be socialized and reintroduced to normal society.
Yeah.
Or he has to be edgier and
right.
like, you know, like they were trying to use his Kim's Convenience character.
Right.
Which he's okay at. I think that's where he's stronger.
Yes.
I felt like when he's being, you know, like doofy and like, you know, affable and friendly and a sitcom character, it's effective.
Yeah.
But when he goes to serious assassin with, you know, like personal trauma, like I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the same connection that I did with Wenwu.
Right. I feel like you've kind of built in the same storytelling weaknesses that Superman has. Because Superman is often accused of being a one-dimensional character because he has all the powers in the world. And the converse to all the other superheroes is that Superman has to lower himself to become Clark Kent. And he has to walk around in normal clothes and glasses to fool people. And the interesting thing is that's his critique of humanity, right? Like, this is what he thinks humans are like.
Oh, yeah.
But he has to spend his life like learning what it is to be human because he's already God. And then they kind of like took that element of Superman's story and kind of injected it into Shang-Chi, because Shang-Chi's already a trained assassin. He's already a killer, but he's, you know, like it sucks. I think it would be more compelling to see him like struggle to be a human being, to be a regular person, than to actually be like crappy at being a human being. You know,
look,
like,
I think if they actually made him like, I don't want to say sociopathic, but like maladjusted.
Yeah.
And if they actually told a story of a man struggling to pretend and fake it as a human being, it would have made a lot more narrative sense. Or alternatively, you just don't give him this super traumatic childhood. I thought the on-ramp was
not well paved.
Yeah. It's just like, wait, what happened? Like, did I get off on the wrong freeway? You know, is that the same character, the same story arc?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I genuinely thought that the movie was definitely decent, and I remember, you know, hearing some harsh critiques about the movie, and I was pretty low with my expectations, but I think as a whole, you know, it's better than a lot of Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Definitely not bottom of the barrel. It's not like Black Widow or sorry, Scarlet. But it's like, you know, it's not bottom of the barrel. It's like decidedly, like, at least halfway up the chain. You know, maybe even higher. Like I thought it was better than Black Panther.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I do hope that I hope Shang-Chi will return, you know, even though I hope more that Death Dealer will return. But, you know, it was a good out.
Yeah.
It was a good outing for everybody involved.
Mhm.
Destin Daniel Cretton did a great job directing. Like even though we are like criticizing that part of the storytelling, I do think like what we actually saw between father and son and father and daughter and brother and sister was pretty compelling.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it made for good theater. I enjoyed what I saw.
Mhm.
I do hope Tony Leung comes back.
Of course.
And I think if the demand is great enough, anybody can come back, as you said previously. But hopefully this is just the beginning of a lot of changes.
Also, like, frankly, do we want Death Dealer to come back, or do we want Andy to cast like another major superhero? Because the real cool benefit of never having your face shown is you can be another guy.
Yeah.
Even if your face is shown, you could be another guy. Gemma Chan,
Exactly.
great example.
Gemma Chan, Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh
Oh,
was
yeah,
multiple
that's right,
people.
yeah.
She was in Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Lots of
and
makeup, yeah.
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 So
Yeah, it's definitely
totally
not.
doable.
And there's so many cool characters. There's so many cool characters that they could make Sunfire a firebender. You know,
Yeah.
They could give him a fat suit and make him Fat Cobra. No, that's Brian's role. Fat Cobra, very very cool character. Regardless of what your opinions are of body image and that whole society, Fat Cobra is badass, and part of his badassery is his fatness. You don't believe me? Wikipedia. But yeah, I know that they're not like MCU enthusiasts, but I think that there's a real synergy and compatibility with that community and Martial Club's upbringing. I mean, you obviously you're a comic book nerd yourself, but for the boys, I know it doesn't hit that same note, but it does hit a note. You know, it does hit a note of the social outcast. It does hit a note of like people taking refuge in this art, in this craft, and really obsessing over it. And I think it's special. You know, I think, you know, when we've met fans, when we've gone out and we've visited like stores, comic book conventions, seeing fans interact with Andy, the thing that I always say is like it's not like the nerd meeting the jock. It's the nerd meeting one of his own.
Yeah.
You know, how many of these Hollywood types aren't the silver spooned, you know, like cool athlete jock, you know, had it all as a kid. I think most of them are that. And to have one of the other type make it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Anyway, regardless of MCU, regardless of all the other stuff, there's also big news on the Martial Club front. I hear that there's percolations. I've seen a video that we can. Just look it up. It's YouTube. It's not hard. You just click it into the thing. Martial Club's making a movie.
Yeah.
That's why you guys have been taking off a lot of time. I
Yes,
thank you for the
yes,
time
yes.
that you've made in your own house, in your own studio, to have a podcast with me. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because definitely working on a movie, but which movie is the question we didn't anticipate. So, you know, lots of doors have opened ever since Andy made his big screen debut with Marvel. But it's interesting how opportunities are coming out of the woodwork, but you still have to pick and choose. You know, and the eternal struggle, I guess, for a filmmaker is always going to be like, do I want the easy route paved with gold, or do I want creative freedom? Because very often we find ourselves in a situation where it's a choice between one or the other. And Andy's very idealistic. I think we're all very idealistic on Martial Club, but especially Andy. He's an artist through and through, and he will give up his budget to make sure that he gets to tell the story he wants to tell. And it's interesting, like, we're at a point where we have to make decisions. Do we want to go this route? There will be more money this way, but we're going to have to fight with investors or directors to make this movie. Or do we want to, like, scrounge, like dig deep into our pockets, you know, scrape for change in the car to tell the story we want to tell? And it seems like we're leaning towards one more than the other. Like, it seems like we want to go the route of creative freedom, but we're still like in that phase where we're talking with different people, developing different ideas, and hopefully that equates to Martial Club's movie getting made. Hopefully. But But that is kind of like the struggle before us.
It's particularly interesting having a little bit of exposure, and like, you know, I've spent a little bit more time with you guys over the past couple months than you know, obviously the past 2 years because of the pandemic. But I knew you guys were disciplined. I knew you guys were hardworking and you trained a lot. But like, what you guys do is literally on the level of like UFC champions. You know, it's like, it's just this, I work out how many times a day? I train how many times a day? I've got to go trick. I've got to go, you know, practice my kicks. I've got to lift weights. I've got to do cardio. I've got to do it all. And it's like, it's actually like really amazing to me as a consumer of content, how much regular daily life discipline it requires to keep yourself in the form necessary or to rehab from injuries like Brian and Andy have had to do. That you know, that I think oftentimes the average consumer, you know, they just like, oh, they see 15 minutes of footage, oh, they probably spent 20 minutes shooting. No, man, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's an entire life to be able to kick like you do, to move like you do. Because if you don't, then you get this crappy Hollywood stuff where it's all CGI and wires and framework, like body doubles with CGI face replacements, you know, like that's what happens, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive how dedicated to craft you three are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hope that it all comes together, like that the story we do end up telling, which I promise you we will tell, will be like the one that conveys all of this in a way that inspires people, not just entertains people, but gives people the idea that maybe they can do something themselves if they never have. You know, that's always been the goal for me, and I think that's like rooted in the heart of Martial Club's mission statement, is that we're trying to inspire people to live more wholesome lives, live life and live life more abundantly.
Yeah, man. I feel like it's interesting how far people have pivoted or how out of trend martial arts has become.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. You know, I remember for the longest time, it was like the best thing on the world, you know, like to me, to everyone I knew.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that people don't think of the kung fu genre and the martial arts genre with the same respect. You know, like, I want to be like Kamaru, put some respect on the name. You know, like it's Kamaru Usman, welterweight champion.
Yeah.
UFC. It's a phrase he uses. He's really cringy. I don't know why I said it. Like literally one of the most cringy athletes. Very, very bad.
He is, but to his credit, I feel like he's done a lot to improve his image. Because, so let's rewind the clocks 3 years, 4 years. Let's do 3 years. About the time when he took the belt from Tyron Woodley, who's dead to me now, by the way.
We're not going to talk about why.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah. Anyways, but Kamaru Usman at the time.
Don't even comment on why. Okay. Don't even put it in the trail. Like, don't even put it in the comments. We don't want your comments if that's what you're going to comment on something else. We talked about a lot of interesting things today, guys.
Seriously. But Kamaru Usman.
I feel like there's a bunch of people who are like, "What's happening?"
I need to know.
Anyway, sorry, super inside joke. Please continue.
Seriously. Like the assessment of Woodley is like he's a really good wrestler. He's got cardio for days, but he's a boring fighter because he doesn't finish his fights. Usman.
Yeah,
you know, like that was kind of the narrative that surrounded him when he got the belt. But he's stacked up 4 or 5 defenses. Let's see, Covington, Masvidal, Burns, Covington again, Masvidal again. He has 5 defenses now. And he's starting to finish his fights in devastating fashion. And he's still a little cringy on the mic, but I really do think he's working on it. And he's actually making progress. Like other champions, like Cejudo.
But I feel like he leans into it.
Cejudo leans into it.
I think Cejudo's trying to be cringy, where Usman is just like, I can't help it. I'm trying to be cool, but I'm not good at it.
True, but I do think like through hard work alone, he is pushing past it a little bit.
Is it better? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be based on a combination of your performance in the cage and your performance on the mic. I really do think he's making concentrated efforts to improve both. Because instead of getting unanimous decisions, he's getting KOs. And instead of, like, he still says stupid things from now and again, but it's not that stupid. Like, I've heard way worse.
It's
like,
true. It's true.
He's doing
He's
better.
just like he's just like a bad actor to me. Like that's the feeling I get. You know, that's the feeling I get from him. But
I'm just saying, in 3 years, he's made leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
But I cut him a little more slack right now.
I've been saying this for a while, but I think when his reign ends, if somebody gets a chance to, if he doesn't retire first, his kryptonite is going to be his lazy jab, because he's got a really clean jab, but he doesn't recoil his jab fast enough, and it's prone to a counter right.
But wouldn't you say his jab is like heavier than most people's?
Oh
jabs?
yeah, he's got heavy hands. He's got super heavy hands. The point is, like, if you're dealing with a really good striker, who can pivot away, with a little bit of head movement, and then come around with a right hook. Good night, Irene. It just that opening. Like I saw so many people take advantage of it. They just weren't powerful enough.
Right.
If you get really, really good heavy hands from a fighter. Like Covington isn't known for his power, but if you put like what's a good example? Like
well, what about this? Like, people are saying, what's next for Kamaru Usman? He's kind of cleaned out the division. People are saying maybe he should move up to 85.
But he's not going to.
He said he wasn't going to, because Israel Adesanya, my boy, is the champion of that division, and they're both from Nigeria. So he says he'd rather have 2 belts in Nigeria than one, or than 2 belts on one man. But
that's
I honestly
still 2 belts in Nigeria. I think he's just scared of Izzy.
Maybe, but I do think every man has his price. And he did say, like, say if it was something crazy like 100 million, I'd do it. He actually said that on record. So say if it was Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya, like, okay, before I hear your opinion, I saw a meme once, an MMA meme, because we now have 3 major champions from Africa. We have Kamaru Usman at 170, we have Israel Adesanya at 185, and we have Francis Ngannou at heavyweight, right? They compared them to Machamp, but get this, they put Izzy as Machop, and they put Kamaru Usman as
outrageous
Machoke, and then obviously Ngannou's Machamp.
But that said, I bet Usman walks around heavier than.
You think so?
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't think Izzy fought Jan Blachowicz at like
203.
Yeah, but what was that his weight?
Yeah.
Oh, for some reason I thought it was like 190 something. I thought it was like.
He said he was going to come in at 190, and then he ended up at 203.
Got it.
So I think, but that's an interesting point. I don't know, dude. Izzy's a big boy. He's 6'5".
But he's skinny, dude. Like,
he is skinny.
How tall is Usman?
Yeah, but like you have to account for that. I think Usman's like 6.
Thick. He's
really thick, but that's 5 inches of difference, dude. I think, I really do think Izzy walks around at maybe 203, 205, somewhere around there. But Usman he weighs in at 170. I think he probably walks around maybe around the same.
So, like, I remember, here's, this isn't an apples to apples, but I remember, what's his face? Colby Covington giving Dustin Poirier crap. He was like,
Shameless, by the way. Yeah. I see what you're trying to do.
No,
you gotta be subtle about it.
Not trying to, what was I trying to do?
Oh, I don't know. I think he was just trying to set up huge. I think he was counting on winning the strap and then setting up the fight, because he was counting on Poirier.
But the weights, he was saying Poirier weighs in at like 190 something, and he fights at 155, right? Because
Khabib does for sure.
Yeah.
Khabib does 190 around.
So if that's the case, I don't think it's that much of a stretch that somebody weighing in at 170 couldn't cut 30 something pounds.
Yeah.
So. Either way, I think it's close. It's close. It's definitely close.
Yeah. Okay. So if they were to fight, if
Izzy
Dana decided,
Izzy a million times out of a million.
That's what I just wanted to hear that, guys.
Yeah,
we could shut this podcast. I just wanted to hear that.
Usman's striking defense is piss poor. He's got the place where he wins obviously is takedowns and ground and pound, but Izzy's jiu-jitsu is no joke, and his jiu-jitsu and his wrestling defense is no joke. We saw that against Kevin Gastelum. Right. And I think he just dissects him on the feet. Like he can put him out with a kick, with a punch.
Yeah.
He's got so many more ways to win. You know, Usman is really, really strong in the clinch, but Izzy has really,
5
really
inches
strong.
on him.
Yeah, well, and he's also got good like Muay Thai skills. So I don't think that it's a situation where, the only scenario I see is taking him down.
Yeah.
Because his striking isn't good.
Yeah.
His striking is way better than it was.
Yeah.
And his striking is really good because of the total offering he has.
Yeah.
But Izzy's like the
Yeah.
best striker in MMA. You know,
Right.
like arguably the best striker in the entire sport.
Yeah.
Pound for pound. So I think it's not a contest.
Right. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
No, I do think Izzy, like his takedown defense became an issue once he was up against the bigger guy in Jan Blachowicz.
Sure.
But I
It's
think
damn hard.
because-
Like Jan's probably weighing like 30 pounds more than him.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
probably freaking hard.
So but I do think in this case, because I do think he's bigger than Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman's huge, but I think it's not gonna be as
Even
easy
if
to
it,
take
even
him
if it's
down.
not bigger,
Yeah.
there's like the best is he's got a couple pounds on him.
Right.
Like the most he could potentially have. Let's go outrageous and say he cuts 40 pounds to
Yeah.
get to 175. He's at 210.
Yeah.
And if Izzy weighed in at 203, that's a couple. It's insubstantial
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Versus John, who I'm guessing cut 20 pounds or
Right.
more.
Yeah.
And he's got a big frame, you know, and like, it's a different
Right.
type of pressure when it's somebody that big.
Exactly. But the funny thing is, I think if you were to poll a lot of the mixed martial arts community, I think the narrative that's kind of gaining dominance is the opposite. I think
Yeah.
people think Kamaru would win.
It's only because Izzy has a more recent loss.
Yeah.
You know, like that's they saw the chink in his armor.
Yeah.
I'm less impressed by the people that Usman is beating than I am impressed by the people Adesanya is
Yeah.
beating.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Usman is, one, like he's known for his takedowns and his ground and pound, but his last 3 fights he won on the feet.
Yeah.
But you also saw him get rocked in 2 of his last 3 fights. Like Gilbert almost put him out in that first round, and Covington rocked him several times in this fight.
Yeah.
And
He's got a good chin and not great takedown,
Yeah,
and not
yeah.
great striking defense.
like he was using a lot of head movement, but that uppercut was there all day.
Yeah. Trevor Whitman, I think, is a great coach, but not a well-rounded coach.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at his camp, they're
Yeah.
just a bunch of really, really, really good strikers. And I think that that's a shame for a guy like Usman.
Mm-hmm.
I think a guy like Usman should fight like George St. Pierre,
Mm-hmm.
where like the adage, take the fight to where your opponent is least strong, it's kind of died recently. You know, it's not like George St. Pierre was the last guy I remember. He would do that every single fight.
Yeah.
I don't care how good I feel about my boxing. If you're a good striker or an okay striker, I'm going to take you to the ground.
Mm.
And if you're a good jiu-jitsu guy, I'm just going to punch you in the eye
Yeah.
and break your eye socket.
Yeah.
Sorry. One of the greatest, most satisfying. I can't stand Josh Koscheck. What a jerk. But I digress. With regards to Usman, like, I don't know why he's not taking people down and pounding them out
Mhm.
way more, or taking him into the clinch and doing what he did with Jorge Masvidal 1.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he's fallen in love with his power, and Trevor Whitman really is a good striking coach and
Yeah.
not, you know, a complete or as complete of a coach
Mhm.
as, what, in my opinion, Firas Zahabi is,
Okay.
who I think is the best in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, like the era is changing. Like, and I think it's just another case of what have you done for me lately? But like, do you think Firas Zahabi can hold on to that reputation if enough time since GSP's reign and if enough time since Rory McDonald's reign passes?
I don't blame Firas for not having talent. I remember him for the way he coached his fighters and the strategist he is. I think Dan Lambert is another good example of a good tactician.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Trevor Whitman is a good coach. He's a good, like, if you listen to him in the cage, "Are we having fun, baby? You having fun?" You know, like, that's all. He's not like actually coaching. You know, he's a hype man. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's done his work.
Yeah.
He's done the reps and he's really drilled in that striking training. at this point we've lost like every one of our followers except the
I know.
NBA fans.
I'm very
yeah. But to zone in on this very very specific phenomenon, the thing that's interesting is like Trevor Whitman is a striking coach who was a striker.
Yeah.
I don't think for us the hobby takes that same approach.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing that I feel like I think Greg Jackson is kind of like that too.
Yeah.
But I don't hold it to answer your question specifically. I don't think he needs another one to hold on to that mantle. You know, I don't judge a coach. I don't judge a manager, a fight manager, fighter coach, based on who his most recent champion is. I judge him based on how good of a strategist I've seen him be.
Yeah.
And Frost was, the best I've seen.
Yeah. He's a really smart man.
Yeah.
I respect his opinions, even if I don't agree.
Yeah. You know, John Jones is out of
Jackson League. Well, so he's with Cejudo now?
Yeah. I didn't read the article, but I saw that John Jones reached out to Cejudo.
Yeah.
Cejudo's like, I'll hold him accountable.
Will you though?
You're not a very big guy. He's a pretty big.
3 times you.
If he wants some cocaine, I'm pretty sure he's gonna eat you and then take the cocaine.
Dude, John Jones, Connor, they're all disappointing me so bad.
Connor, I don't know if I can put them in the same conversation.
Okay.
I don't know what Connor's doing. I think that the interesting thing, one of the magic bullets that Connor has is you don't know if it's an act or not.
Mm-hmm.
Where John Jones is definitely not an act. You're just a big screw up who is watching his life fall apart.
Yeah.
I'm particularly upset about John Jones because when he first came up, I remember when he fought Andre Galvao, I think that's his name, some Brazilian guy who wasn't very good. He didn't finish him, but I was like, man, this kid is going to be amazing. And I was a big fan. I remember I had a friend, a Korean friend, who was like, no, he's cocky, I hate him, I can't stand him. And I was like, no, dude, he's like Christian, he's got he always praises Jesus. And looking back, man, I think for the fact that I was wrong alone, I have so much anger towards him. You know, like, how dare you drag our faith and our God through the mud? How dare you represent us so poorly?
Right.
He's like an actual bad guy. He's like a bad guy in a movie, you know.
Yeah.
And I respect the heck out of him. He's one of the best. I think he's the pound for pound best.
Yeah.
But it's weird to me. I just had this conversation the other day. But it's weird to me that John Jones pivoted away from just taking people down with devastating trips and eviscerating people with elbows. I never saw anyone able to stop that.
Yeah.
But he just decided to become a stand and bang guy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of silly because I don't think he has any business. He shouldn't be standing and banging with a lot of the people that he's standing and banging with.
Right. So what do you think happens when he finally makes his heavyweight debut?
Kensu.
It's probably going to be Ngannou.
You know, I haven't seen John Jones get hit by one of these, touch of God, touch of death guys.
Yeah.
And I've seen Ngannou do it enough times where it's hard for me to suspend disbelief that Ngannou can't put him out.
Yeah.
I think if John fights the smart fight, takes him down and elbows him to death, easy win.
Yeah.
Ngannou isn't a developed enough fighter to respond to that. But I think if he stands and bangs with Ngannou, I don't think, if he has a reach advantage, which he might because he's got crazy Gogo Gadget arms, it's not substantial. It's not as substantial as it was against all the guys at 205.
Yeah.
And John Jones doesn't have the same type of knockout power. He's not a knockout artist.
Yeah.
He can knock people out, but Ngannou touches you and you your body, he does the
wind from his swing could probably daze you.
Yeah. So I take Ngannou just because I think the path to victory for Ngannou is large margin for error, where the margin for error for John, in my opinion, is much smaller.
Right.
Gane is another guy that's interesting.
Yeah.
Cyril Gane.
I was just going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what if Gane pulls off the upset against Ngannou?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Like, I feel like Gon, is it Gon or Gane?
Gon.
Gon, yeah. I think Gon could, again, exploit the fact that Ngannou is a young mixed martial artist.
Yes.
Take him down and jiu-jitsu him to death.
Right.
Because I don't think Ngannou has that skill set, like, on lock. But let's assume for a second Ngannou loses to Gon in some fashion or another. Yeah, man, it's interesting. I respect Jon Jones striking a lot, and I respect Cyril Gane's striking a lot, but I don't think it's a good match for Gon as a striking.
Yeah.
From pure striking, like he doesn't have the best takedown, or he doesn't have the best striking defense.
Right.
He uses elusiveness and long range like attacks.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like a Taekwondo approach.
Yeah.
Versus Jon Jones' fairly solid fundamentals for boxing and Muay Thai.
Yeah.
I don't think Taekwondo wins in that matchup ever.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I think I'd give the edge to Jon Jones over Gon.
Interesting. Oh,
even though, like, Gon looks like a physical marvel.
Yeah.
And Jon Jones kind of looks like a fat grandpa now.
Yeah.
It's like, when I heard that he was gonna bulk up, I knew he was gonna like put on some fat, but I didn't think it was gonna be that much fat. Watch, I'm gonna get canceled for body shaming.
I know, seriously. I think he looks okay. But
really?
I mean, okay, like when he gets in there with these heavyweights, like he's still gonna look like an Adonis compared to them.
Who?
Jon Jones.
Really?
Like he's bulk. He's a lot bigger, but I think it's because we're comparing him to his 205 frame. Like at heavyweight, he's still gonna be like super lean compared to them.
I feel like Gon and Ngannou have like pretty fantastic.
Ngannou's just a freak of nature.
Yeah. They look like chiseled out of marble.
Yeah.
Where Jon Jones kind of looks like a grandpa now, like
a little bit, huh?
Yeah, like just
Yeah,
it's the belly. It's just all in the belly because he's got skinny legs. It's not that he's super big bump, but it's the fact that it's like skinny legs still. Yeah. And then the bump.
Yeah.
And then the rest of because all his weight's carried on his back and his chest and his torso and his arms. Yeah. Anyway, I hope he gets knocked into Kingdom Come and repents for his sins and has a true come to Jesus moment and gets his life together.
It might happen via car before he even steps into that octagon. It's been forever, dude. Like, anyways.
He's a special little snowflake, is what he is.
I know, like you can I get that we're all sinners, we're all fallen, we all make mistakes, but there should be this thing called sanctification happening. I don't see that with Jon, honestly.
I think before even that, there's a thing called repentance.
Yes.
And I don't think
he's not actually repentant.
When I've seen him apologize, and it's a good apology, but it doesn't seem sincere. It seems scripted. Yeah. And because like I remember when he'd apologize and he'd be like contrite, and then the camera would stop running, and then he'd just start like talking about how he's gonna murder Daniel Cormier. I was like, that's not a man who's contrite. Like there are these moments where the veneer, like he slips and he shows his true self, and his true self is not a good guy.
Right.
I'm not a fan of Daniel Cormier, but in contrast, I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you see the recent Holloway Rodriguez fight?
I did.
What did you think?
It was a war. Okay. That was the most human I'd ever seen Max look. But that was like
Volkanovski.
Okay, so the thing about Volkanovski.
Poirier was the most human I've ever seen him look.
So in that first fight with Volkanovski, it was just close. It was a split decision for Volkanovski. The second fight, I thought Holloway won.
I did too.
Yeah. Poirier, it just looked like he was fighting a bigger guy. Mm-hmm. But against Yair Rodriguez, who's, by the way, coming off a 2-year layoff, like it was don't get me wrong, it was a display of like high-level martial arts on both sides. It was really good. It was really fun to watch. But he looked really human against him. He got hit a lot.
I actually didn't watch it because I was trying to watch it after the fact on YouTube.
Okay.
So I couldn't stand the shaky cam.
Yeah.
But I remember like 3 minutes into it, I'm like, he doesn't look like the same Holloway of Calvin Kattar.
Right. He didn't. He really didn't.
I feel like Rodriguez had enough wrinkles
Yeah.
To not let him get into a groove, at least in that first short
right.
burst. Yeah, I was particularly impressed, and I feel bad for being impressed, but like, you know, when Michael Chandler was just, you know, getting his, that was the most glorious, like, from Michael Chandler's face.
Yeah.
Michael Chandler had his face beaten in.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever rooted more for a guy getting his face beaten in. Like, yeah, let him hit you. You know, like, show him what you're made of. It was so idiotic and crazy. Sorry, Mr. Chandler. I respect you as a fighter, but that was nuts. But it was so glorious. It was like one of the most glorious. I don't think I've ever been more exhilarated by a fight.
That was great.
It was freaking phenomenal. If you guys haven't seen it, Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje. Great fight. Actually, like almost all of Michael Chandler's fights. I can't remember a bad one.
Yeah.
Him versus Benson Henderson.
Him versus Brent Primus when he broke his ankle.
That was different. Yeah. What was glorious is like it wasn't broken. It was dead-legged.
Dead-legged.
And he was still trying to fight.
Yeah.
You know, like every single Michael Chandler fight I can think of is freaking epic.
True. Absolutely.
His loss to
Pitbull.
No. That's I guess that's not super. He didn't do too much against Pitbull. Yeah. But his loss against the champ, De Bronx.
Oh yes.
Charles Oliveira. And his wars against Eddie Alvarez. Now that I'm thinking about like total body of work, he might be my most the fighter that I enjoy watching the most.
Yeah.
You know,
I really
even
wanted him to win.
So did I. I mean, like, I like both of them.
Yeah.
A lot.
I don't like Justin.
Really?
I don't like Justin Gaethje.
Because he's a little dumber?
He's dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like dumb fighters.
Yeah. I like him because he's good.
Yeah.
I like him because his style is really freaking good.
Yeah.
And fun to watch.
Yeah.
I was really hoping Michael Chandler would win too, but he's not. I don't think he's there.
Yeah.
And he's a little old, so I don't know if he's gonna get there.
I don't think he's gonna get there either.
But in terms of like raw entertainment value, I genuinely think he might be the most fun fighter I've like consistently.
Yeah.
You know, Max Holloway makes a run for the money, but
yeah,
I think it might be him.
Right.
Anyway, I feel like we should talk about something besides MMA because now
we're
down to one viewer.
Seriously.
And that one viewer is actually, they just forgot to log off.
I know.
I think what we should do is we should talk about what we're going to talk about next time. I think what we're going to talk about next time is the grand adventure Martial Club has been on over the past couple of years. And hopefully we'll have special guests from some bigwigs, some Hollywood superstars, Andy and Brian Lee.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I think we've done it. I think we've done our part, right, guys? Have we entertained you for long enough? I feel like it's pretty hard, you know, talking for this long. You know, keeping it up, keeping the energy right, talking in the right volumes.
Yeah.
I hope. You know, it's interesting. Like I went back, and I randomly stumbled upon, like, you know, YouTube recommended because I'm subscribed to you, one of our old videos. And I was just watching. I was like, man, like we're not bad at this. You know, we're pretty okay at this. And that's a really arrogant thing to say, but it's just you know it's a good skill to have, and I wanted to dust it off and put it back on for the many people who've been asking, like Mary. She got 2 shout-outs. I'm sure she's gonna be but yeah, like thank you guys for tuning in and, you know, listening to us ramble on about all the different things in the world. If you guys ever have a topic that you guys would like us to expound upon, please feel free to comment below. And yeah, until next time, right, Daniel?
Yes. Well said. So, we will see you then. Bye.